So let's start with what you need to tap the case for full flow while it's still in the car. So you have a air nozzle that goes into the oil pressure sending unit, and that you want to have constantly blowing so that all the waste comes out as you use your tap and drill, so none of the chips go into the engine. Then you need your angle, and you have to take a look at them to make sure that they're drilled properly all the way through. I've had to open up this inside a little bit because it was a little restricted through here. And then naturally you're going to need an AN fitting that goes onto the end of it. Then from there, you've got your cooler setup once you've completed that. So you begin with an oil pump that has the right cap, and then that goes into a filter unit. You got to get the fittings to all make this thing work. From the fittings, you go over to the oil cooler, and then they need specialized fittings to work on these ends. And then you have your switch for 180 degrees. And so that connects up to there. You want that to be on the exit side of your oil cooler. And then you go into whatever fittings that you need to make it all work. And then your hose. And then it continues back into the engine. So that's the overall system and all the parts you'll need. All of these, with the exception of the oil pump, I managed to get off of Amazon. Took about a week to piece it all together and make sure that I had what I needed, but it can be done just via Amazon. So this is step 2 in mounting the cooler. I built this mount that will sit off of the torsion bar with some U-bolts coming off of these 4 holes. They go up and around the torsion tube. This then sits up in a little space by the end of the heater box. So I'll show you how that it all mounts in there. Then these hoses can go straight in with no special fittings or in back to the engine and the oil filter. For the oil filter, I made this mount and used some captive nuts. So that will now mount, in the space right underneath this. So you can access it pretty well. So on to mounting these 2 pieces. Once I have these mounted, then we can start plumbing. But still I have to install then the fuel pump and some other fittings.
So let's give you an idea of where the cooler will live. Those are the 2 U-bolts. And you've got all this space up here. So and then the oil lines can travel right through that gap forwards. So now the unit's installed. You can see the fittings. There you go. I don't know if you can see it that way. And underneath, we've got the plate. Where is it? The plate and the 4 bolts holding it in. So the plate actually will protect it too. And then if I want, I could put some type of screen material here to really protect the fan. But I figured, the fan is more vulnerable here, true, but at least the cooler is not going to get hit first. So then I'll probably run the lines along this support, and then in this space will be the oil filter unit, and then they'll continue, past the exhaust into the oil pump and to the full flow fitting. And now the oil filter is mounted. Let's take a look. So you've got the one fitting here that'll get a 90 and bring it back through here somehow. And then the other fitting over here will be able to travel along here to the cooler back there. So here we are midway through, and I've got an air line hooked up that will blow out towards me the probably a lot of oil, but hopefully also the shavings as we go and drill this out and tap it. I'm in the process now of pulling the oil pump, so we'll see how that goes. You do have to remove the exhaust in order to get a straight shot into the plug right there. So in order to have space for this to rotate around, you got to shave off a little bit of this piece right here. So we're going to do that while everything is still, you know, I put this temporarily back on to kind of keep the shavings out. And then, you know, we haven't drilled this yet. So let's go ahead and start. Now what I'm just trying to do is give me a ballpark idea of how well we did. So if I rotate this around, yeah, it looks like I've got pretty good clearance. And you can see that I've already shaved off quite a bit off of this fitting to really, you know, make it easier. So next thing, I want to pull this plug. I don't have a slide hammer. So what I'm going to try to do is put a little hole in it, put a wood screw in it, and then just probably pry it out a little bit. And then I'm going to shove something in there so that I can shave this off. Or we're going to actually do our method of putting air in this thing and keep blowing out oil so that we don't get any of this crap everywhere. Okay, so what I've opted to do is drill a small hole in the center of it. It's actually much thicker than I thought. Okay, so we got that in. Now we're gonna put this screw in. And we're gonna take our pry bar and hopefully pop. Piece o' cake. So there we go. That's the pin. Okay, what you missed, because I obviously can't press the right button, but what I did is I'd taken one of my Harbor Freight cotton swabs, shoved it in there, and then while the stick was sticking out, I sliced off just a little bit of this, and in the process, cut the stick off and everything like that, which was just really easy to, you know, yank the whole piece out and not have any shavings in the engine itself. So, and then now I've got a really nice flat spot. My next thing is to take this and just, so I've got my air hose here. Plug that in, and let's see. Okay, so I'm feeling air pressure coming out of there pretty good. It's now something that we're going to try to drill out. So, give me some air pressure. Okay, so we've got it drilled pretty good. Let's see if I can give you a better view of that. I think maybe I'll go just, I think I want to get past, so you can see the oil gallery right there. I want to go thread that baby. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is just chamfer that hole a little bit to start the, and what I've got here is a little countersink bit. Oh, let's turn on some air. Okay, so the next thing is to tap that. And what I've got then is this kit from Amazon. Okay, so I'm set to start tapping. Oh, that makes a lot of noise. So we've got a tap in there. That's going to take some turning, so let me get some tools to do that. Okay, so a little Teflon tape, and I've got the piece in there, and I gotta obviously clean the whole engine, but that air pumping through caused all of those chips to come out, and it was really nice. So what I also did is, I put this cover back on to make sure that I didn't get any stuff in here, but you could time it right and not do your oil pump, your sequencing, do your oil pump a little later. And then what I did also is underneath this, come on fingers, is I stuffed the rag in there to kind of keep all of that stuff out of there. So now oil pumps goes back in, and you can see over here I've got the filter. I've already got some lines already done up to go back to the cooler. So we're going to run this down and around, or maybe down and through the space here. We'll see how it comes when it comes to the exhaust and how it's going to work. But essentially, we're done tapping. Okay, so I've made some progress. I've got the bottom fittings in. I had to order up a new fitting here, but we've got it all connected up. I've got a little separator here, and it goes up into a 90-degree, let's see if we can get that, 90-degree fitting into the filter and then out of the filter. So you got coming out
of the oil pump into the filter and then back to the cooler. And then the return line goes back into the case here. Next step is to make sure that I've got clearance with this plate. So we're gonna work on that a little bit. You can see that I've already got some rub marks on it. So we're gonna really try to get this thing up nice and tight. Okay, now we just gotta remove this thing that made this whole thing work, which was this valve. But in order to get it to, turn, I gotta take off the handle. And then that just unscrews. And so it's just a simple ball valve with an M10 fitting on the end, which is the same as a 3/8, and then just a simple ball valve with a fitting. Okay, she's all back together again. I've ran it, had to put about 1.5 quarts, 2 quarts in to top it off due to the oil filter filling up and the cooler, and then what was lost through the swapping of the oil pump. So there's the fitting, and yes, I know this is not the right tin. This motor was cobbled together before I got it, and I just haven't had the time to put it all back in the right order. So this ends the series of putting in a new oil cooling system, oil filter, full flow. Why it is still in the vehicle. It can be done.